The Gucci handbag flew from Zariah's grip. Her knees hit polished marble, palms skidding as she wrapped both arms around her swollen belly. Silk nursery blankets scattered like fallen petals around her burgundy dress. Should have stayed in your lane, Z. Damien Cross stood over her, hands still extended from the shove, white shirt crisp against his dark suit. Behind him, Chloe adjusted her quilted handbag with a satisfied smirk. Zariah's wrist throbbed. Her dress tore at the knee. But terror drowned everything else. The baby. God, please let the baby be okay. Whose baby is that, Zariah? Damien's voice carried across the atrium. Because we both know you couldn't afford to keep yourself together, let alone a kid. What did you do, trap some poor guy? This couldn't be real. Not here. Not after 8 months of rebuilding everything he'd destroyed. This has nothing to do with you. Zariah's whisper barely carried. Just let me leave. Chloe's laugh cut like broken glass. She probably doesn't even know who the father is. Isn't that how girls like her operate? Get pregnant, find a paycheck. The words landed like physical blows. Zariah had heard worse, from Damien's mother, the night they threw her out of the family estate. You probably lost yourself on purpose. Damien circled her like a predator sizing up wounded prey, then found some chump to play house with. Classic move. Zariah's face went cold. Lost on purpose? Your mother told me I was an embarrassment to your corporate image and had security escort me out in the rain. The memory slammed back. 6 months ago. Damien's family penthouse. His mother's champagne-fueled rage. My son is being considered for senior partner. You think we'd let him destroy his career for some struggling girl with delusions? Being pushed into the hallway. 3 months pregnant. Running through Gangnam streets, sobbing, vision blurred. The black Mercedes. Screeching tires. Strong hands pulling her back from the crosswalk. The hospital. The cramping. The blood. I almost died that night. Zariah's voice shook. I lost our baby, Damien. And the man who saved me is the father of this child. Damien's face flushed crimson. You're lying. He grabbed her arm. She pulled away. He shoved harder. Zariah stumbled backward, heel catching on scattered silk. Time crystallized. Her hands reached desperately, protect the belly, shield her daughter from impact. She crashed into a jewelry display. Metal bit into her ribs. Glass exploded. White-hot pain tore across her spine. 2 men in black suits materialized instantly, gripping Damien's arms. Get off me. Do you know who I am? Your corporate title means nothing here, one said in Korean accented English. Zariah's phone skittered across marble, caller ID glowing, heart suit. Chloe sneered. Another Korean man? God, is that even his baby, or did you just pick the richest one? Zariah's hands trembled, reaching for the phone. Everything hurt, but only the baby mattered. Jagia, what's wrong? His voice cut through chaos, sharp, concerned, dangerous. I'm at Crystal Pavilion. I fell. Her voice cracked. The baby. His voice dropped to absolute zero. Are you hurt? Is our daughter hurt? I don't know. Stay there. Don't move. A pause. Orders barked in rapid Korean. Then, who's with you? She looked at Damien. Recognition was dawning in his eyes like a death sentence. My ex Damien Cross. Silence. The kind that precedes annihilation. The one whose family chased you into traffic. The one whose baby you lost. Yes. Good. Something in his voice made her shiver. "I've been waiting to meet him." "Keep him there," Damien whispered, strangled. "Jaemin. Park." Chloe's eyes, the same eyes that had watched Zariah humiliated, now went wide with terror. "The man who saved my life when your family tried to erase me." Zariah pushed herself up, wincing. Around them, crowds gathered. Security guards hovered, uncertain. "The man who held me through losing your baby. The man who's been praying for this moment." Damien's knees buckled. He sagged against Jaemin's men. "You have 10 minutes before he gets here," Zariah said quietly, hand pressed protectively over her belly. "I suggest you start praying. Before we continue, I need your help. We're trying to reach 10,000 subscribers, and every single one matters. So if you enjoy this story, please hit that subscribe button. And I'd love to know, drop a comment telling me where in the world you're listening from. It means everything to know you're out there." Through the glass entrance, 5 black vehicles pulled up in perfect formation. Not a convoy, a statement. Doors opened in synchronization. Men in dark suits emerged like shadows given form. At the center, moving with lethal precision, her husband. The crystal pavilion held its breath. Conversations died. People stepped back without consciously deciding to move. All black, suit, shirt, tie, like he'd dressed for a funeral. Features carved from stone. Beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. His eyes found her. Everything else ceased to exist. 6 months ago. Zariah stood in the marble foyer of the Cross family penthouse, rain hammering against floor-to-ceiling windows. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. "You're being dramatic." Damien didn't even look up from his phone. "It's just dinner with the partners. You'd understand if you had any concept of what's at stake here." "I'm 3 months pregnant." Her voice cracked. "Your mother just told me I'm an embarrassment to your family." "She didn't say that. She said I don't fit your future corporate image. That I'm..." Zariah's throat closed. She couldn't repeat the words. "Damien, please. Just look at me." He finally lifted his eyes. No warmth there. Just calculation. The same look he gave spreadsheets and quarterly reports. Maybe she has a point. The world tilted. "What?" Damien set his phone down with deliberate care. "I'm up for senior partner, Z. Do you understand what that means? The youngest in the firm's history. But Mitchell's been asking questions about my personal life. About stability. About whether I'm ready for the responsibility. We're having a baby. That's stable. That's... Is it?" He stood, adjusting his cufflinks. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks impulsive. Unplanned. You working at that bookstore, living in that studio apartment. You said you loved that apartment. You said it was charming. I was being kind." His tone could have frozen champagne. "Zariah, be realistic. The partners' wives are on charity boards. They summer in the Hamptons. They went to Yale and Wellesley. They don't," he gestured vaguely at her. "They don't work retail. The baby." She had to think about the baby. "Stay calm. Don't cry. I thought we were building something together." "You said..." "I said a lot of things." Damien walked to the bar, poured himself scotch like they were discussing quarterly projections. "But that was before the promotion became real. Before I understood what's actually required at this level." Behind him, through the glass wall of his mother's study, Zariah could see Catherine Cross watching. Champagne flute in hand. Expression triumphant. "Your mother put you up to this." "My mother," Damien said carefully, helped me see things clearly. The firm is my future, Z. It's legacy. It's generational wealth. It's everything I've worked for since undergrad. And what am I? The pause lasted forever. A mistake I'm correcting before it costs me everything. Zariah felt the floor drop away. The baby isn't a mistake. Isn't it? He took a slow sip. We were careful. Except that one weekend when you said you'd handle it. When you said, "Are you actually suggesting I got pregnant on purpose?" I'm suggesting this derailed my timeline. He set the glass down. I'm 29, Z, partner track. This was supposed to happen at 35, maybe 40. After I'm established. After I marry someone who. Who what? Who's white? Who comes from money? His silence was answer enough. Get out. Catherine Cross appeared in the foyer like she'd been waiting for her cue. You've upset my son enough for one evening. Mrs. Cross, please, I just need to talk to Damien. You need to leave before I call security. Catherine's smile was surgical. My son has a future. A real future. And you're not in it. Damien. Zariah's voice broke. Please. The baby. He wouldn't meet her eyes. Security will see you out, Catherine said. And Zariah? If you try to contact my son again, our lawyers will be in touch. I'm sure you can't afford that kind of legal battle on a bookstore salary. You can't just. I can do whatever protects my family. Catherine pressed a button on the wall. Two men in suits appeared instantly. Escort Miss Cole out. Make sure she understands she's not welcome back. Damien. Zariah's scream echoed off marble. Look at me. This is your child. He turned away. Walked to the window. Stood there like she'd already ceased to exist. The security guards weren't rough, but they weren't gentle. Zariah found herself in the hallway, the penthouse door closing with a soft, final click. She stood there, trembling, hand pressed over her barely showing belly. Then Catherine's voice carried through the door, well handled, darling. Mitchell will be impressed with your maturity. This kind of discretion is exactly what the senior partners look for. Zariah ran. Down 43 floors. Out into Gangnam's rain-soaked streets. Sobbing so hard she couldn't see. Didn't see the crosswalk signal. Didn't see the black Mercedes until headlights flooded her vision. Strong hands yanked her backward. She collapsed against a stranger's chest, gasping, the rain mixing with her tears. Are you hurt? His voice was accented, concerned. Miss, you almost. The cramping started then. Sharp and wrong. Zariah looked down. Watched rain wash pink across the pavement. The baby, she whispered. Oh God. The baby. The stranger was already lifting her, shouting in Korean. Car doors opened. The world went sideways. The last thing she remembered was his hand gripping hers in the emergency room, refusing to let go even when nurses said only family was allowed. I'm staying, he'd said in perfect English. She has no one else. Jaemin crossed to her in measured strides, his men fanning out behind him. The crowd parted like water. He dropped beside Zariah, hands hovering as if afraid his touch might cause more pain. Sarung, he murmured in Korean. Where does it hurt? Did you feel the baby move? His hands, the same that had broken men's bones, trembled as they checked her over with clinical precision. Ribs. Spine. Wrist. Then settling on her belly with reverence that bordered on worship. She's moving, Zariah whispered. I think she's okay. He closed his eyes briefly. His exhale shook. When he opened them again, all tenderness had evaporated like morning frost under a blowtorch. Only winter remained. Hospital. Now. He stood, turning to face Damien with the same controlled deliberation he used for everything. But first. The transformation was instant. Complete. The loving husband disappeared. What remained made grown men take involuntary steps backward. Soul's most dangerous man. Damien Cross. Not a question. An execution order waiting to be signed. Mr. Park, I didn't know, Damien's voice cracked. He tried to pull away from the men holding him. Their grips tightened. You didn't know the pregnant woman you assaulted was my wife? Jae-min's voice remained pleasant. Conversational. Somehow more terrifying than shouting. Or that she's carrying my daughter? Both. I swear, I thought. You thought what, exactly? Jae-min tilted his head slightly. That because she's alone in a mall, she's unprotected? That she's still the woman you discarded? The one you could push around with impunity? Damien's face cycled through shock, confusion, denial. Sweat beaded his forehead despite the mall's air conditioning. She never told me she was, I didn't know she'd. Remarried? Jae-min supplied softly. Built a new life? Found someone who values her? He stepped closer. Damien flinched. Or did you mean you didn't know she still carried consequences from the last time someone in your family decided she was disposable? Complete silence blanketed the atrium. Even the ambient mall music seemed to have died. Let me tell you what happened 6 months ago. Jae-min's tone could freeze blood. She ran into the street that night. Suicidal with grief. Stepped in front of my car. I barely stopped in time. Chloe gasped. Jae-min didn't spare her a glance. Seoul National Hospital. For hours while doctors tried to save your baby. A daughter, by the way. He paused, letting it sink in. She miscarried your dead daughter at 14 weeks while you celebrated closing that merger deal with Hansen and Wright. Damien went sheet white. How do you? I know everything about you, Mr. Cross. Jae-min's smile was surgical. Your promotion. Your engagement to Miss Kim here. The fact that you told your mother the pregnancy was handled 3 days after my wife nearly bled out on an operating table. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. Each word landed with precision. There's a difference. You blocked her number. Had your assistant screen her calls. Your mother's lawyers sent a cease and desist letter to a woman recovering from a miscarriage. Shall I continue? Damien had slid down the wall. His expensive suit crumpled against the marble. Please, you have to understand, the pressure, the firm. I understand perfectly. Jae-min crouched to his level. You chose ambition over humanity. You chose comfort over conscience. You looked at the woman carrying your child and decided her pain was an acceptable price for your convenience. It wasn't like that. Then explain to me how it was. Jae-min's voice dropped to something quiet. Lethal. Explain how throwing a pregnant woman out in the rain isn't attempted murder. Explain how today, you thought it was acceptable to put your hands on her again. To shove her. To risk my daughter's life because your ego couldn't handle seeing her standing upright. I'll pay, whatever you want, I don't want your money. Jae-min stood. I want you to understand consequences. You see, 6 months ago, I pulled her from death. I held her while she screamed for a baby that was already gone. I watched her break into pieces so small I thought she'd never reform. And I promised myself, his eyes were black ice, that if I ever met the man responsible, I'd make him understand exactly what he took from her. He turned to his second-in-command, a man built like a concrete wall with eyes equally unforgiving. Min-ho. Take them both. Separate rooms. Don't let them leave Seoul. Sir. Min-ho gestured. 4 more men materialized. Wait, Damien's voice pitched up. You can't just, I have rights. In Korea? Jaemin's smile could frost glass. You're a foreign national who just assaulted a pregnant woman in public. I'm a concerned citizen ensuring you face appropriate consequences. Min-ho, call Detective Choi. Tell him we have a witness statement to file. My embassy will be notified. Eventually. Jaemin checked his watch with theatrical precision. These things take time. Paperwork. Translation. You understand. Chloe found her voice finally. This is kidnapping. This is a citizen's arrest pending police investigation. Jaemin's eyes finally landed on her. Unless you'd like to be charged as an accessory. I have 17 witnesses who heard you encourage the assault with racial slurs. Her face crumpled. Jaemin returned to Zariah, lifting her with the same care someone might handle spun glass. She wrapped her arms around his neck, breathing his familiar scent, sandalwood and power and safety. Hospital, he murmured against her hair. I've got you. Behind them, Damien's protests faded as Min-ho's men escorted him toward the service exit. Jaemin settled Zariah into his car, leather seats, classical music, perfect climate control. Everything calibrated for her comfort. Everything except his hands, which still shook slightly while buckling her seatbelt. Hospital, he told his driver. Seoul National. Call ahead. Tell them Mrs. Park is coming and she's 6 months pregnant. I want Dr. Lee waiting. Then his hand found hers. Squeezed once. A promise without words. I've got you. Always. The Park estate sat in Pyeongchangdong like a fortress disguised as art. Traditional Hanok architecture modernized with bulletproof glass and security systems that could detect a mosquito's heartbeat. Zariah had fallen asleep in the car. Jaemin carried her through the main entrance, past guards who bowed without meeting his eyes, up the stairs to their bedroom. He laid her on their bed with the same careful precision he used for everything that mattered. Brushed her hair back. Adjusted the pillows. His jaw worked like he was chewing glass. Dr. Lee had cleared her. The baby was fine. Zariah was fine. Bruised ribs, sprained wrist, minor lacerations. Nothing permanent. Nothing except the fear in her eyes when she'd stumbled. The way she'd curled around their daughter like a human shield. The fact that she'd been hurt at all. Jaemin stood there watching her breathe for a full minute. Then he turned and walked to his study. Min-ho was already waiting, laptop open, phone charging. Sir. Tell me. Jaemin poured himself whiskey. Didn't drink it. Just held the glass like it might anchor him to something resembling restraint. Damien Cross. 29. Associate at Hansen and Wright International. Corporate mergers and acquisitions. Currently up for senior partner, youngest in the firm's history if approved. Min-ho scrolled. His father owns Cross Development. Mid-tier real estate. His mother is Catherine Cross, socialite, sits on 3 charity boards. Old money pretending to be older than it is. The firm. Hansen and Wright has offices in Seoul, Tokyo, Singapore, New York. The Seoul branch handles their Asian acquisitions. Cross has been point man on several high-profile deals in the last year. Who's their largest client? Min-ho's smile was razor-thin. Daehan Industries. Jaemin's eyes went cold. Daehan Industries. The manufacturing conglomerate that had been trying to legitimize their supply chain for years. The one that owed the Park family favors going back 2 generations. The one whose CEO still sent Jae-min's father expensive scotch every Chuseok. Interesting. Jae-min finally took a sip. What else? Cross is engaged to Park Mi-sun. Daughter of Park Jin-woo, owns a chain of luxury hotels. No relation to your family, but he's been trying to break into the Gangnam development scene. Needs city council approvals. Permits. The kind of things that require, Min-ho paused delicately. Political goodwill. Which we control. Indirectly. Yes, sir. Jae-min set the glass down. Walked to the window overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. His city. His territory. And some American corporate climber thought he could put hands on Jae-min's wife and walk away. Call Chairman Kwon at Daehan. Min-ho was already dialing. The phone rang twice. Park SSI. It's late. This must be important. Chairman Kwon. I need a favor. Jae-min's voice was pleasant. Warm, even. Your legal representation at Hansen and Wright. I assume you're satisfied with their service? A pause. Generally. Why? One of their associates assaulted my wife this evening. In public. While she's 6 months pregnant. The silence on the other end spoke volumes. Everyone in Seoul's upper circles knew about Soraya. Knew Jae-min had married her 6 months ago in a private ceremony. Knew that touching her was touching him. Which associate? Damian Cross. Ah. Chairman Kwon's tone shifted. The merger specialist. He's been handling our acquisitions. Has he been satisfactory? Another pause. Calculation happening in real time. There are always other firms, Park SSI. Other specialists. I appreciate your flexibility, Chairman. I'll remember this. As will I. Give my regards to your wife. I hope she and the baby are well. The line went dead. Jae-min turned to Min-ho. Next. Park Jin-woo. The hotel magnate. Father of Cross's fiancée. Call him. This conversation was shorter. Park Jin-woo answered on the first ring, was informed that his future son-in-law had assaulted Mrs. Park Jae-min, and understood immediately that his Gangnam development permits would evaporate unless he took corrective action. I'll speak with Mi-sun, Jin-woo said tightly. The engagement will be dissolved by morning. I trust your judgment, Park SSI. 2 calls. 10 minutes. Damian Cross's career and engagement were already burning. But Jae-min wasn't finished. His firm. Who runs it? Robert Hansen. Based in New York but visits Seoul quarterly. Find out what matters to him. Reputation? Money? Legacy? Min-ho's fingers flew across the keyboard. Reputation. Old family. His grandfather founded the firm in 1952. They pride themselves on discretion. White glove service. 0 scandals. Perfect. Jae-min smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Draft a press release. Anonymous source reports associate at prestigious international law firm arrested for assaulting pregnant woman at upscale Seoul shopping center. Witnesses report racial slurs. Police investigation ongoing. Send it to every major Korean news outlet and the International Herald Tribune. Sir, Cross hasn't actually been arrested yet. He will be. Detective Choi owes me for that smuggling case last year. The one where evidence conveniently disappeared. Jae-min checked his watch. Call him. Tell him we need formal charges filed by morning. Assault. Harassment. Whatever sticks in Korean court. And if Cross tries to leave the country? His passport is already flagged. I had immigration alerted the moment we left the mall. Jae-min poured another whiskey. Still didn't drink it. He's not going anywhere until I decide he's suffered appropriately. Min-ho allowed himself a small smile. Anything else, sir? His mother. Catherine Cross. Find out which charity board she sits on. Who she knows. What matters to her. Jae-min's voice went soft. Dangerous. She threw my pregnant wife into the rain 6 months ago. Called her trash. Threatened her with lawyers. I want to know every pressure point that woman has. I'll have a full report by morning. Good. Jae-min finally drank. By this time tomorrow, Damian Cross should be unemployed, alone, and facing criminal charges in a foreign country. His family's reputation should be in tatters. And he should understand that touching Zariah Park has consequences that money can't fix. Min-ho closed his laptop. Consider it done, sir. After he left, Jae-min stood at the window for a long time, whiskey in hand, watching the city lights blur into stars. Somewhere out there, Damian Cross was sleeping in a holding cell, still thinking this was fixable. By dawn, he'd learned differently. The holding room wasn't a cell, technically. Just a windowless conference room in a police substation with fluorescent lights that hummed like dying wasps. Damian sat across from Chloe, a uniformed officer standing by the door with the kind of bored expression that suggested he'd seen this scenario play out 1,000 times. This is insane. Damian rubbed his face. He'd been here 4 hours. 4 hours of questions in broken English, forms he couldn't read, and Detective Choi's unnervingly polite smile. They can't actually charge me. I barely touched her. Chloe's arms were crossed. Her designer handbag sat on the table between them like a barrier. You pushed a pregnant woman, Damian. She fell into me. It was an accident. That's not what 17 witnesses said. They're lying. Or look, this is Korea. They probably all know her husband. This whole thing is corrupt. Damian leaned forward. Chloe, you have to call your father. He has connections. He can. My father called me an hour ago. Her voice was ice. He told me the engagement is off. The world tilted. What? He said staying associated with you would destroy his Gangnam development deal. Something about permits and city council approvals and political favors he can't afford to lose. She wouldn't meet his eyes. He said Park Jae-min controls half the real estate development in Seoul through indirect channels and that I need to distance myself immediately. Your father is scared of some gangster? Damian laughed. It sounded manic even to his own ears. Chloe, think about this rationally. Park is a criminal. Organized crime. He probably traffics drugs or runs protection rackets or he runs legitimate businesses. Chloe's tone was flat. Import-export. Real estate holdings. Investment portfolios. My father looked into him after your little incident. Park Jae-min is worth approximately $4 billion. He sits on the boards of 3 major corporations. His family has political connections going back to the Korean War. That doesn't make him legitimate. That makes him good at hiding. He graduated from Seoul National University with honors. MBA from Wharton. He's consulted for the Ministry of Trade. The president invited him to a state dinner last year. She finally looked at him. Whatever he is, Damian, he's untouchable. And you assaulted his wife. I didn't assault anyone. She's playing victim because Damien caught himself. Tried to recalibrate. Look, 6 months ago Zariah was working at some bookstore in Itaewon. Living in a studio apartment. Barely making rent. Now suddenly she's married to a billionaire? You don't find that suspicious? I find it irrelevant. She trapped him. Same way she tried to trap me. Got pregnant, played the damsel in distress. She lost your baby, Damien. Chloe's voice cracked. You told me she just disappeared. You never mentioned a miscarriage. You never mentioned throwing her out while she was pregnant. My mother made that decision. I was. You were what? Powerless? You're 29 years old. You let your mother throw your pregnant girlfriend into the rain and then you blocked her number and moved on like she never existed. The fluorescent lights hummed. The officer by the door checked his phone. I was protecting my career, Damien said finally. The partnership. Everything I'd worked for. You understand that. You come from this world. You know how important image is. Zariah didn't fit. She was black. Chloe supplied quietly. Different. From a different background. She wouldn't have understood the pressure, the expectations. So you discarded her. I made a strategic decision. Damien was sweating now. The room felt too small. And clearly it was the right one because look at her now. She found some Korean guy with money and convinced him to marry her. This is what she does, Chloe. She finds successful men and... Stop. Chloe stood. Just stop. I've been sitting here for 4 hours listening to you rationalize and deflect and blame everyone but yourself. Your firm called. You're suspended pending investigation. My father ended our engagement. The Korean police are filing formal assault charges. And you're still, she gestured helplessly. Still acting like you're the victim here. I am the victim. This is a setup. Park probably orchestrated the whole thing. Had Zariah go to that mall, stage a confrontation. You shoved her, Damien. I watched you do it. She provoked me. She asked you to leave her alone. Chloe picked up her handbag. That's all she did. Ask to be left alone. And you couldn't handle it because for the first time in your life someone looked at you like you weren't important. Where are you going? Home. To pack. I'm flying back to Busan tonight. She walked to the door. The officer opened it. My father's lawyers will send paperwork about the engagement. Don't contact me. Chloe, wait, you can't just, we can fix this. She paused in the doorway. Do you know what my father told me? He said Park Jae-min called Chairman Kwon at Daehan Industries personally. 1 phone call. 10 minutes. And Hansen and Wright lost their biggest Asian client. 1 call, Damien. That's illegal. Market manipulation or... That's power. She looked at him with something close to pity. Real power. The kind you thought you had but never actually did. And you used your fake power to hurt a woman who'd already lost everything. So no, Damien. We can't fix this. Because you're not the victim. You're just a small man who finally picked a fight with someone bigger. The door closed behind her. Damien sat alone in the humming fluorescent silence, still convinced this was somehow salvageable. That his lawyers would sort it out. That the firm would stand by him. That Park Jae-min was just a criminal with good PR. He'd figure it out in the morning. He still had options. He always had options. The delusion was almost beautiful in its completeness. Damien's phone buzzed at 6:30 in the morning. He'd barely slept on the holding room's plastic chair before Detective Choi had released him with a court date and his passport confiscated. The Uber ride back to his apartment had cost him $200 because no Korean driver would take the fare once they heard his name. The text was from Robert Hansen himself. Not his assistant. The senior partner. My office. 8 a.m. sharp. Don't be late. Damien showered, shaved, put on his best suit. Navy Tom Ford, the one he'd worn when closing the Daehan deal. Power armor. He knotted his tie with shaking hands and told himself this was fixable. Hansen was reasonable. The firm valued him. One incident with an ex-girlfriend wouldn't derail everything he'd built. The Hansen and Wright offices occupied floors 40 through 43 of the Gangnam Finance Center. Damien had always loved this building. Glass and steel and the kind of understated wealth that whispered rather than shouted. He'd imagined his name on the partner list in the lobby. Damien Cross, senior partner, mergers and acquisitions. The security guard at the desk looked at him funny. Mr. Cross. You'll need a visitor badge today. I work here. Your building access was suspended, sir. I'll call up to Mr. Hansen's office. Damien's stomach dropped. Suspended? There must be a mistake. No mistake, sir. The guard was already dialing. You can wait over there. 20 minutes in the lobby. Other associates walked past, glancing at him with barely concealed curiosity. Julie from litigation whispered something to Marcus from tax law. They both looked away when Damien met their eyes. Finally, Hansen's assistant appeared. Mr. Cross. Follow me. The elevator ride was silent. She didn't make small talk. Didn't ask about his weekend. Just stared at the ascending numbers like they were the most fascinating thing she'd ever seen. Hansen's office was corner suite, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's skyline. The senior partner sat behind his mahogany desk, reading glasses perched on his nose, manila folder open in front of him. He didn't look up when Damien entered. Sit. Damien sat. Hansen read for another 30 seconds. Then closed the folder with deliberate care. Removed his glasses. Looked at Damien with the expression of a man examining something distasteful on his shoe. Daehan Industries terminated their contract this morning. The words hit like a fist to the solar plexus. What? Effective immediately. No notice period. They're willing to pay the early termination penalty. $15 million. They'd rather lose $15 million than continue working with us. Hansen's voice was clinical. Do you know why? Sir, I can explain. Samsung Heavy also pulled their account. As did Lotte Chemical. And Hyundai Steel is reviewing their options. Hansen leaned back. In 8 hours, you've cost this firm approximately $60 million in annual billings. So please. Explain. Damien's mouth was dry. There was an incident yesterday. A personal matter. My ex-girlfriend. The pregnant woman you assaulted at Crystal Pavilion Mall. I didn't assault, it was barely, we had history and she is married to Park Jae-min. Hansen said the name like a curse. Do you have any idea who that is? Some Korean businessmen. Some Korean businessmen. Hansen laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Park Jae-min's family has political connections that go back 70 years. His father was advisor to 3 presidents. His investment portfolio includes stakes in half the companies we represent in Asia. And you, he pointed. You put your hands on his pregnant wife in public. It was an argument that got out of hand. I'll apologize. You'll do nothing. Hansen stood, walked to the window. Do you know how I found out about this? Not from you. Not from the police. From Chairman Kwan at Daehan. He called me at midnight. Midnight, cross. Do you know what he said? Damien shook his head. He said Park Jae-min called him personally to ask about our relationship. Very polite. Very respectful. Just wondering if Chairman Kwan was satisfied with our services. Because if not, Park knew some excellent alternative firms. And oh, by the way, did Kwan know that one of our associates had assaulted Park's wife while she was 6 months pregnant? The office felt too small. Too warm. That's how it works here, Cross. Not lawsuits. Not official complaints. Just quiet phone calls. Polite suggestions. And suddenly every major client we have in Korea is reviewing their options. I can fix this. I'll reach out to Park directly. You'll resign. Hansen turned. Effective immediately. You can't fire me. I have a contract. You're not fired. You're resigning. Due to personal circumstances that make your continued employment untenable. Hansen returned to his desk, slid a paper across. Sign this. You'll receive 2 months severance. Your benefits end today. Damien stared at the resignation letter. What about the partnership track? Are you joking? I've worked here for 6 years. I brought in $40 million last year alone. And lost $60 million in one night. Hansen's voice was ice. Sign the paper, Cross. Or I'll fire you for cause and you'll get nothing. Your choice. This is because of Park. He's pressuring you. Park hasn't pressured anyone. He doesn't have to. That's what you don't understand. Hansen leaned forward. He made one phone call. One. And our entire Asian client base is suddenly nervous about association. That's real power, Cross. Not your Ivy League degree or your father's real estate company or your mother's charity connections. Real power is making people afraid without ever raising your voice. Damien's hand shook as he picked up the pen. Oh, and Cross? Hansen said as Damien signed. There's going to be an audit. A mysterious investor, with significant holdings in several of our client companies, has requested a full review of our merger and acquisition department. Specifically your files. Your deals. Your client communications. That's who? Anonymous. But they have the leverage to demand it and the resources to make it thorough. So if there's anything in your work history that might not withstand scrutiny, any corners cut, any deals that were less than perfectly ethical, now would be the time to get your own lawyer. Damien's signature looked like a child's scrawl. Security will escort you out. You have 15 minutes to collect your personal items. Company laptop, phone, and access cards stay here. The walk to his office was a blur. The cardboard box. The framed degrees. The golf trophy from the company tournament. Everything that mattered fitting into one pathetic box. Marcus from tax law watched from his doorway. Tough break, man. Damien didn't respond. The security guard was polite but firm. 15 minutes. Not 16. When Damien stepped out onto the street, box in his arms, the morning sun was too bright. The city too loud. And somewhere in Pyeongchang-dong, Park Jae-min was probably eating breakfast with his wife, not even thinking about the man whose life he'd dismantled with a few phone calls. That was the worst part. Damien wasn't even important enough to hate. Just important enough to destroy. Damien found her address through a private investigator who charged him $3,000 and made him sign a liability waiver. The Park estate sat behind iron gates in Pyeongchang-dong, the kind of neighborhood where even the air felt expensive. Security cameras tracked his approach. He pressed the intercom button with sweating palms. Yes? A woman's voice. Not Zariah. I'm here to see Zariah Park. It's Damien Cross. She'll know who I am. Silence. Then, wait there. He waited 20 minutes in the October cold before the gates opened. A woman in her 50s appeared, expression carved from granite. Mrs. Park will see you in the garden. Follow me. Touch nothing. The estate was ridiculous. Traditional Korean architecture modernized with floor-to-ceiling glass. Koi pond. Sculpted trees. Stone pathways that probably cost more than his father's entire real estate portfolio. Damien felt his resentment building with each step. This should have been his life. His world. If Zariah hadn't trapped him with that pregnancy, if his mother hadn't forced his hand. Zariah sat in a covered pavilion overlooking the garden, wrapped in a cream cashmere blanket despite the space heaters. Her baby bump was more pronounced than at the mall. She looked up when he approached, and her expression was carefully neutral. Damien. Zariah. Thank you for seeing me. He tried his boardroom smile. The one that closed deals. You look well. Pregnancy suits you. What do you want? No small talk then. Fine. He sat across from her without being invited. I want to apologize. For the mall. For everything. I was out of line. She said nothing. Just watched him with those dark eyes that used to look at him like he hung the moon. Now they were flat. Assessing. I've been under a lot of pressure, he continued. The partnership track, the expectations. When I saw you, I reacted poorly. But I never meant to hurt you. You have to know that. I don't have to know anything. Right. Of course. He recalibrated. Look, I understand your husband is upset. He has every right to be. But this has gotten out of hand. My firm, my engagement, my career, everything's falling apart over one mistake. One moment of poor judgment. You pushed a pregnant woman. I know. I know. And I'm sorry. Truly. He leaned forward, going for sincerity. But Zariah, you know me. You know I'm not a violent person. We were together for 2 years. When have I ever? Your mother threw me out in the rain while I was carrying your child. That was her decision. Not mine. You stood there and let it happen. Damien's jaw tightened. I was in an impossible position. My family, my career, you're asking me to choose between everything I'd worked for and what? A relationship? A baby? Me? That's not fair. None of this is fair, Damien. She shifted, hand moving to her belly. You wanted me gone. Your mother made it happen. You blocked my number and moved on. Why are you here? Here it was. The real reason. I need you to talk to your husband. Ask him to back off. The firm, the clients, this audit he's orchestrated, it's destroying my life. Something flickered across her face. Almost amusement. You think I have that kind of influence? You're his wife. And you think he does things because I ask him to? That I control him? I think he loves you. I think if you told him this has gone far enough, he'd listen. Damien reached across the table. She pulled her hand back. Zariah, please. For what we had. For the time we spent together. I'm begging you. You're begging me. She repeated it slowly. The same way I begged you not to throw me out. The same way I begged you to answer my calls after the miscarriage. That was different. How? I was trying to protect my future. And he's protecting his wife. A new voice. Male. Accented. Absolutely frigid. Damien spun around. Park Jae-min stood in the garden pathway, hands in his pockets, expression pleasant. Behind him, two men in black suits materialized like shadows given form. He must have been there the whole time. Listening. Mr. Cross. How good of you to visit. Jae-min's smile could freeze oceans. I was hoping we'd have a chance to talk. Damien stood, trying to salvage dignity. Mr. Park. I came to apologize. To your wife. For the incident at the mall. The incident. Jae-min walked closer. Is that what we're calling assault now? An incident? It was a misunderstanding that escalated. You put your hands on my pregnant wife. Twice. Once 6 months ago by proxy through your mother. Once 3 days ago in person. Jae-min stopped 3 feet away. I don't misunderstand anything about that. I was trying to make amends. To ask Zaraya if she could, if you could, consider backing off. The professional consequences have been severe. Have they? Not a question. Tell me, Mr. Cross, what did you think would happen? I hoped we could resolve this like adults. Without destroying each other's lives. Without destroying each other's lives. Jae-min repeated it softly. You destroyed her life 6 months ago. Threw her into traffic. Let her bleed out your baby. Blocked her number while she recovered. And now you want mercy because the consequences finally caught up to you? That's not, I didn't destroy her life. She's clearly fine. She married you, she's pregnant, she's living in, Damien gestured at the estate. All of this. She landed on her feet. The temperature dropped 20 degrees. She landed on her feet. Jae-min's voice was surgical. You think this, he gestured at Zaraya, is landing on her feet? You think she doesn't still wake up crying about the daughter she lost? You think she doesn't flinch when men raise their voices? You think 6 months erases 2 years of your emotional abuse? I never abused. You told her she wasn't good enough for your world. Your mother called her trash. You threw her away like garbage and convinced yourself it was a business decision. Jae-min stepped closer. And then, you saw her happy, pregnant, protected, and your ego couldn't handle it. So you pushed her. Put her in danger. Risked my daughter's life because you couldn't stand seeing her rise above you. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Jae-min's eyes were black ice. Same choice you made 6 months ago. Same choice you've been making your entire life. You choose yourself. Your comfort. Your ambition. And you genuinely believe the people you hurt should just forgive you because the consequences are finally inconvenient. What do you want from me? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. That you can't put your hands on women and walk away. That power isn't a corporate title, it's the ability to protect the people you love from men like you. This is revenge. This is justice. Jae-min smiled. You came here thinking you could manipulate my wife into saving you. Using the same tone, the same tactics you always used. For what we had. I'm begging you. As if those words ever meant anything from you. Damien looked at Zaraya. She was watching him with something like pity. Security will escort you out, Jae-min said. If you contact my wife again, I'll have you arrested for harassment. If you come near her, I'll make sure you never work in corporate law again. Not in Korea. Not in Asia. Not anywhere. You can't do that. I already have. Jae-min gestured. The men in black suits stepped forward. Your professional reputation is finished. Your personal relationships are destroyed. And you still don't understand why. That's the saddest part. As security walked him to the gates, Damien heard Jae-min's voice one last time, soft and deadly. Don't come back. The Seoul International Business Gala was invitation only. Black tie. The kind of event where deals worth billions were discussed over champagne and wagyu. Damien had attended twice before as Hansen and Wright's representative, back when he mattered. He bought his tuxedo at a consignment shop in Itaewon. His real one was still at the apartment he could no longer afford. Rent was due in 3 days and his bank account held $12,000. Maybe enough for a flight back to the States and first month's rent in some second-tier city where his name hadn't been completely destroyed. But not yet. Not until he tried one more time. He'd heard about the gala from Marcus at Tax Law, who'd mentioned it in passing during an awkward run-in at a coffee shop. The Asian Business Council's annual fundraiser. Every major player in Seoul's corporate world would be there. Including, Marcus had said with poorly concealed schadenfreude, Park Jae-min. Damien's plan was simple. Get inside. Find someone with power. Anyone who'd listen. Explain that he'd been railroaded. That one mistake had been blown out of proportion by a vindictive criminal with too much influence. Someone would listen. Someone would see the injustice. They had to. He slipped past security by following a group of Japanese executives, keeping his head down, speaking minimal Korean when necessary. The ballroom at the Shilla Hotel was excessive even by Seoul standards. Crystal chandeliers. Ice sculptures. A string quartet playing something classical and mournful. Damien grabbed champagne from a passing waiter and scanned the crowd. There, Chairman Kwon from Daehan Industries. If Damien could just explain, just make him understand that Park had manipulated the situation. Damien Cross. He turned. Robert Hansen stood there in a perfect tuxedo, expression hovering between disbelief and fury. Sir. I didn't know you'd be. What are you doing here? You weren't invited. I needed to speak with some people. To explain my side. Your side. Hansen's laugh was sharp. Get out. Now. Before you embarrass yourself further. I just need 5 minutes with Chairman Kwon. 5 minutes too. Kwon won't speak to you. No one here will. Hansen stepped closer, voice dropping. Do you know what you've become, Cross? A cautionary tale. The American who thought he could play power games in Seoul and didn't understand the rules. Every firm in Asia knows your name now. Not for your deals. For your stupidity. That's not fair. Fair? Hansen's eyes were cold. The audit came back. Turns out you've been cutting corners for years. Fudging compliance reports. Backdating documents. Nothing criminal, but enough to make the firm look incompetent for not catching it. So now we're facing sanctions and you're the reason why. Damien's champagne glass trembled. I did what everyone does. What you told me to do. Move fast. Get deals closed. Don't let paperwork slow down momentum. I never told you to falsify reports. I didn't falsify, I just, Damien caught himself. Lowered his voice. Everyone does it. You know they do. Everyone doesn't get audited by Park Jae-min's people. Hansen turned to leave. Security will escort you out. Don't come back. But Damien didn't wait for security. He pushed deeper into the crowd, desperate now. Someone had to listen. Someone had to. The lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the stage at the far end of the ballroom. The crowd quieted, turning toward the podium where the evening's host was preparing to speak. Damien found himself pushed toward the front by the shifting crowd. He ended up near the VIP tables, the ones closest to the stage with small placards denoting corporate sponsors. That's when he saw her. Zoraya sat at the head table. Not in the audience, at the head table. She wore a midnight blue gown that accommodated her pregnancy with elegant draping. Diamonds at her throat that probably cost more than his car. Her hair was swept up, makeup subtle but perfect. She looked like she belonged. Next to her sat Jae-min in a tuxedo that made Damien's rental look like a costume. His hand rested on the back of her chair, thumb moving in small circles against her shoulder. Protective. Possessive. At their table, Chairman Kwon. The CEO of Samsung Electronics. The Minister of Trade and Industry. Seoul's Deputy Mayor. And several faces Damien recognized from Forbes Asia's billionaire list. Ladies and gentlemen, the host began, welcome to the 15th Annual Seoul International Business Gala. Tonight we gather to celebrate the partnerships that drive Asian economic growth and the leaders who make it possible. Damien's legs felt weak. This couldn't be real. Our keynote speaker tonight needs no introduction. His family's contributions to Korea's economic development span 3 generations. His own portfolio includes strategic investments in technology, manufacturing, and sustainable energy. Please welcome Park Jae-min. Applause filled the ballroom. Jae-min stood, buttoned his jacket, and walked to the podium with the easy confidence of someone who owned the room. Because he did. He owned the room, the hotel, probably half the people in it. Damien stood frozen as Jae-min's speech washed over him. Something about economic cooperation. Trade partnerships. The importance of ethical business practices. The crowd hung on every word. Then Jae-min's eyes found Damien in the crowd. The briefest flicker of recognition. A smile that didn't reach his eyes. Before I continue, Jae-min said smoothly, I want to acknowledge my wife, Zoraya. She reminds me daily that true success isn't measured in quarterly reports, but in the people we protect and the values we uphold. The spotlight swung to Zoraya. She smiled, gracious, one hand resting on her belly. The crowd applauded again. 6 months ago, she taught me that love means standing up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. That power without compassion is tyranny. And that every choice we make reveals who we truly are. His eyes never left Damien. In business, we often speak of consequences. Market consequences. Legal consequences. But we rarely discuss moral consequences. What happens when we treat people as disposable? When we prioritize ambition over humanity? When we convince ourselves that cruelty is just good business. The temperature in the room shifted. People were listening differently now. Intently. I've learned that the measure of a man isn't his title or his wealth. It's what he does when he has power over someone weaker. How he treats those who can't fight back. Whether he takes responsibility for his choices or blames others when consequences arrive. Damien tried to back away. Security guards had materialized at the edges of the crowd. Blocking exits. Tonight, we celebrate partnerships built on mutual respect. Trust. Integrity. Jae-min's smile was surgical. We do not celebrate those who abuse power. Who harm the vulnerable. Who believe consequences only apply to other people. Chairman Kwon was looking at Damien now. So was the Samsung CEO. Recognition spreading like wildfire through the crowd. I believe someone is in attendance tonight who doesn't quite understand these principles yet. Security will help him find the exit. And gentlemen, Jae-min addressed the room. I trust we all understand that certain behaviors have no place in our business community. Two guards gripped Damien's arms. Not roughly, but firmly. Inexorably. The crowd parted like the Red Sea as they walked him toward the exit. 1,000 eyes watching. 1,000 witnesses to his humiliation. As the ballroom doors closed behind him, Damien heard Jae-min's voice one last time. Now, let us discuss the future. For those who deserve one. The security guards deposited Damien on the sidewalk outside the Shilla Hotel like discarded trash. The October night had turned cold, mist rolling through Gangnam's neon-lit streets. He stood there in his consignment tuxedo, watching Seoul's elite arrive in chauffeur-driven cars for the event he'd just been thrown out of. His phone buzzed. Email from his lawyer. Damien, the audit results are official. Hansen and Wright is filing a civil suit for professional negligence and breach of contract. They're seeking damages for reputational harm. We need to talk. Call me. He deleted it. Opened his banking app instead. 12,000 had become 11 after the tux rental and the private investigator. $11,000 between him and complete destitution. Another email. This one from his father. Your mother told me what happened. Don't come home. We can't be associated with this scandal. You're on your own. Damien laughed. The sound echoed off marble and glass, manic and broken. His own father. The man who'd built a modest real estate empire on handshake deals and corner cutting was cutting him loose to protect the family name. A black town car pulled up. For a moment, Damien thought it might be Jae-min's people coming to finish the job. Instead, Chloe stepped out, wrapped in a fur coat, looking like she'd never set foot in a police holding room. Damien. Chloe. What are you? You said you never wanted to see me again. I'm here to make sure you understand what you've lost. She pulled out her phone, turned the screen toward him. A news article. Korean and English text side by side. Park Jae-min announces major real estate acquisition. Billionaire investor Park Jae-min has acquired controlling interest in the Gangnam Central Development Zone through a consortium of investment vehicles. The purchase includes 12 commercial properties, 4 residential towers, and development rights to Seoul's most valuable real estate corridor. Industry analysts estimate the transaction at $2.3 billion USD. Damien stared at the words without comprehending. Do you know what buildings those are? Chloe's voice was clinical. The Gangnam Finance Center. Where Hansen and Wright has their offices. The Crystal Pavilion Mall. Where you pushed his wife. The luxury residential tower where you live. Where you currently owe 3 months back rent. The ground tilted. He owns your office building. Your apartment. The mall where this all started. Chloe smiled without warmth. My father found out this morning. The transaction cleared yesterday but was backdated 6 months. Park's been planning this since the day he met Soraya. He's been buying up the entire sector piece by piece through shell companies and international holding groups. That's impossible. He couldn't have known. He didn't need to know. He was protecting her regardless. Building a fortress around the woman he loves. Chloe stepped closer. My father's hotel development? The one that needed permits? Park controls the zoning board through political proxies. He could approve the project tomorrow. Or delay it for 10 years. My father made a choice. His business or his daughter's engagement to a man stupid enough to assault Park Jae-min's pregnant wife. Your father chose money over you. My father chose survival over sentiment. Something you never learned. She checked her watch. Oh, and your apartment? Eviction notice was filed this morning. Park's property management company is citing the assault as grounds for immediate removal. Moral turpitude clause. You have 72 hours. Damien's knees wanted to buckle. He locked them. Refused to give her the satisfaction. I thought you should know, Chloe continued, that I'm engaged. Again. Kim Sung-ho. His family owns the second largest shipping company in Korea. The wedding is in December. You're getting married in 2 months? When you understand power, you understand timing. She buttoned her coat. Sung-ho's family has been wanting an alliance with my father's hotels. I'm beautiful, educated, and now publicly distanced from a scandal. Perfect wife material. So that's it? Everything we had. We had an arrangement, Damien. I was moving up. You were moving up. It was mutually beneficial. Her eyes were cold. But you stopped moving up. You started falling. And I don't fall with people. A Mercedes pulled up behind her town car. The driver stepped out, opened the back door. Kim Sung-ho emerged, tall and polished in a tuxedo that actually fit. He walked to Chloe, slipped an arm around her waist, and only then seemed to notice Damien. Is this him? Sung-ho's English was perfect, Ivy League polished. The one who thought he could touch Park's wife? Yes. We were just saying goodbye. Sung-ho looked Damien up and down with the expression someone might give a stray dog. I heard about you. Everyone has. You're famous now. Not the kind of famous that opens doors, though. The other kind. Fuck you. Careful. Sung-ho's smile was sharp. Park Jae-min isn't the only one with influence in Seoul. Insult my fiancé and you'll find out how many other people are willing to make your life difficult just to stay in his good graces. They walked toward the hotel entrance. Chloe paused, looked back. Oh, Damien? That reference you were counting on from Hansen? They're telling recruiters you falsified compliance documents and endangered client relationships. No one in corporate law will touch you. Not in Asia. Probably not anywhere. Then they were gone, swallowed by the golden light of the hotel lobby where Seoul's elite gathered to celebrate their power. Damien stood alone in the cold. His phone buzzed again. Text from an unknown number. Your building access has been revoked. Personal items will be packed and placed in storage. Storage fees are your responsibility. Park Properties Management. Another buzz. His credit card company. Your account has been flagged for review due to recent employment status changes. Credit limit temporarily reduced to $500 pending verification of income. Another. The private investigator who'd found Zoraya's address. Mr. Cross, I'm legally required to inform you that Park Jae-min's legal team contacted me regarding our transaction. I've been advised that providing stalking assistance is a criminal matter. I'm returning your payment and destroying all records of our work together. Do not contact me again. The emails kept coming. LinkedIn messages from contacts removing him from their networks. A notification that his corporate club membership had been revoked. An alert that his car insurance was being canceled due to failure to maintain employment verification. 6 days. That's how long it had taken for his entire life to disintegrate. 6 days since he'd pushed a pregnant woman at a mall. 6 days since he'd learned that some people don't just have power, they are power itself. Damien looked up at the Shilla Hotel. Through the windows, he could see the ballroom. The glittering crowd. Zoraya seated beside her husband, laughing at something the Minister of Trade had said. Jaemin's hand on her shoulder. Protective. Permanent. She'd landed on her feet. Not because she was lucky. Because she'd married a man who turned the entire world upside down to make sure she'd never fall again. Damien turned and walked into the Seoul night. Alone. Ruined. Finally understanding consequences. The gala ended at midnight. Zaraya slipped off her heels the moment they reached the car, her swollen feet grateful for the relief. Jaemin loosened his tie and pulled her close, his hand finding its familiar place on her belly. "She's kicking," Zaraya murmured. "She always gets active when you're near. Smart girl. Knows her father will protect her." His thumb traced slow circles over the silk. "How are you feeling? The gala wasn't too much?" "I'm fine. Better than fine, actually." She leaned her head against his shoulder, watching Seoul's lights blur past the tinted windows. "Did you see his face? When you were speaking?" "I saw." Jaemin's voice was soft. "Do you regret it? Any of it?" Zaraya thought about that. 6 months ago, she'd been a different woman. Broken. Bleeding. Certain she'd never be whole again. She'd stood in the rain outside that hospital, discharged with pamphlets about grief counseling and miscarriage support groups, and wanted to disappear. Then Jaemin had appeared. Not to save her, she was already saving herself, but to stand beside her while she rebuilt. To hand her tools when she needed them. To shield her from the wind while she constructed something new from the ruins. "No regrets," she said finally. "Not about him. Not about tonight. Not about any of it." The car pulled through the estate gates. Home. The word still felt strange. Foreign. 6 months wasn't long enough to erase 28 years of struggling, of being told she wasn't enough, of making herself small to fit into spaces that were never meant for her. But it was long enough to start believing she deserved this. Inside, the house was warm. Soft lighting. The scent of jasmine from the garden. Jaemin's housekeeper had left tea and rice cakes in the kitchen, disappeared to her own quarters for the night. Zaraya settled into the window seat overlooking the koi pond, Jaemin beside her, their fingers intertwined. "I keep thinking about her," Zaraya said quietly. "Our daughter. What kind of world she's going to grow up in. A better one than you did. Because of you. Because of us." He turned to face her fully. "Zaraya, you need to understand something. Everything I did, the calls, the pressure, the systematic dismantling of that man's life, I didn't do it just because he hurt you. I did it because he needed to learn that you're not someone who can be discarded. That touching you has consequences. That you matter. I know. Do you?" His eyes searched hers. "Because sometimes I see you looking around this house like you're waiting for someone to tell you it's a mistake. Like you're still that woman standing in the rain, convinced she's not good enough." Zaraya's throat tightened. "It's hard to forget. 6 months ago I was. 6 months ago you were surviving. Now you're thriving. There's a difference." He cupped her face. "You think I married you because I felt sorry for you? Because I wanted to rescue some broken woman? Sometimes I wonder. I married you because you're the strongest person I've ever met. Because you stood in front of my car ready to die, and 2 hours later you were making plans to live. Because when the doctors said you'd lost the baby, you didn't fall apart, you got angry. And anger is fuel, Sarang. Anger changes things." She remembered that night. The hospital bed. The cramping. The blood. And underneath the grief, yes, anger. White-hot fury at Damien, at his mother, at a world that let men like him destroy women like her and call it business. "You used that anger," Jaemin continued. "You went back to school. Started therapy. Learned Korean. Built a life. I just made sure no one could take it from you again. By buying half of Gangnam?" He smiled. I was planning to anyway. You just gave me motivation to accelerate the timeline. The baby kicked again. Harder this time. Zariah winced. She's going to be a fighter, Jamin said, pressing his palm flat against Zariah's belly. Like her mother. I want her to be more than that. I want her to be, Zariah struggled for words. I want her to never know what it feels like to be thrown away. To be told she's not good enough. To stand in the rain bleeding and alone. She won't. His voice was iron. Because she'll have us. She'll have resources, education, protection. She'll have a father who will burn down anyone who tries to diminish her. And a mother who already survived hell and came out diamond hard. Zariah felt tears threatening. Pregnancy hormones made everything sharper. What if I mess her up? What if I'm too damaged to? Stop. Jamin pulled her close. You're not damaged. You're scarred. There's a difference. Scars are proof you survived something that tried to kill you. They're evidence of strength, not weakness. Through the window, Seoul glittered. Millions of lights. Millions of lives. Somewhere out there, Damian Cross was learning what it meant to fall from grace. Learning that actions had consequences. Learning that some women don't stay down when pushed, they rise with armies behind them. Tell me about her, Zariah whispered. Our daughter. What kind of woman will she be? Jamin was quiet for a moment, his hand moving in slow circles over her belly. She'll be brilliant. Stubborn. She'll have your eyes and my temperament. She'll speak 3 languages by the time she's 5. She'll never apologize for taking up space. She'll walk into rooms and own them, not because of my money or my name, but because she knows, in her bones, that she belongs. She'll never be less than. Never. His voice was a vow. She'll grow up watching her mother command respect. Watching her father destroy anyone who threatens their family. She'll understand that power isn't about cruelty, it's about protection. That strength isn't violence, it's the ability to shield the people you love. Zariah closed her eyes, imagining it. A little girl with Jamin's sharp features and her own dark curls. Running through this garden. Learning to swim in that pool. Growing up knowing she was wanted, protected, loved beyond measure. Never knowing the taste of rain mixed with tears. Never feeling the sting of being told she wasn't enough. Never standing in an emergency room alone. She'll have everything, Zariah said softly. She already does. Jamin's lips brushed her temple. She has parents who would raise the world to keep her safe. That's more than money. That's legacy. Outside, the koi pond rippled in the breeze. The garden lights cast shadows across stone pathways. Seoul hummed in the distance, a city of 8 million people, and in this moment, only 2 of them mattered. Zariah placed her hand over Jamin's, both of them cradling their daughter through skin and silk and certainty. I'm not the same woman he threw away, she said. Not a question. A realization. No. You're the woman who rose from those ashes and married a king. Jamin smiled against her hair. You're the woman who will raise a queen. And in that moment, in that window seat overlooking their empire, Zariah finally believed it. She was no longer the girl who got pushed. She was the woman who pushed back. And won. 3 years later. The cherry blossoms were falling at Seoul National University like pink snow. Zariah adjusted her daughter's sun hat, watching Min-seo toddle across the grass with the determined waddle of a 2-year-old who'd just discovered independence. Mama, look. Min-seo pointed at the petals drifting down. Flying flowers. Flying flowers, Zariah repeated, her Korean flawless now. Beautiful, aren't they? She'd been invited back to speak at the business school. Guest lecture on international entrepreneurship and cross-cultural commerce. Her own consulting firm, established 18 months ago with Jaemin's backing but built on her own expertise, now had 12 employees and clients across 3 countries. The auditorium had been packed. Students hanging on every word. Afterward, 3 women had approached her privately. All of them foreign. All of them navigating Seoul's corporate world. All of them looking at her like she was proof that belonging was possible. "How did you do it?" one had asked. "American. Maybe 24. How did you make them take you seriously?" Zaraya had smiled. "I stopped waiting for permission to exist." Now she sat on a bench watching Min Seo chase petals, her phone buzzing with LinkedIn messages from students who wanted mentorship, companies who wanted consultations, women who wanted to know her secret. There was no secret. Just survival. Just refusing to stay down. Just marrying a man who understood that her power complemented his rather than threatened it. "Mrs. Park." She looked up. A man stood there, expensive suit, nervous energy. It took her a moment to place him. Marcus. From Hansen and Wright's tax law department. Marcus. She kept her voice neutral. "It's been a while." 3 years. He glanced at Min Seo, then back. "I heard you spoke at SNU today. I wanted to. I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For not saying anything. When when everything was happening. I knew he was wrong. Everyone knew. But we just watched. I watched." Zaraya studied him. He looked older. Tired. "You were protecting your job. That's not an excuse." "No. But it's honest." She gestured to the bench. He sat, maintaining careful distance. "What happened to Hansen and Wright?" "Seoul office closed last year. After Daehan pulled out, the other clients followed. Corporate decided Korea wasn't viable anymore." He laughed bitterly. "I'm at a local firm now. Smaller. Better, actually." "And Damien?" Marcus's expression shifted. "You don't know? I stopped following his story 3 years ago. He's back in the States. Working at his father's real estate company. Mid-level sales. His father had a stroke 2 years ago, needed help running things. Damien's engaged to some woman from Ohio. Teacher, I think. Normal life." Zaraya felt nothing. No satisfaction. No anger. Just the distant observation of someone looking at a stranger's life. "Does he ever?" Marcus hesitated. "Does he ever talk about what happened?" "I wouldn't know. We don't travel in the same circles." She watched Min Seo discover a butterfly. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I thought you'd want to know that he learned something." "Maybe. He's not the same person." "Good for him." "Are you?" Marcus struggled. "Are you happy? Really happy? Or is this all just," he gestured vaguely at her designer clothes, her daughter, the life she'd built. "Revenge?" Zaraya considered the question seriously. 3 years ago, maybe it had been partly revenge. Partly proving Damien wrong. Partly showing Catherine Cross that the woman she'd called trash could rise higher than anyone in their family ever would. But now? "I'm happy," she said simply. "Not because of what I took from him. Because of what I built for myself." A black Mercedes pulled up to the curb. Jaemin stepped out, tie loosened, jacket over his shoulder. He'd come straight from a board meeting. Min Seo squealed and ran to him on unsteady legs. "Appa. Appa. Flying flowers." He scooped her up, spun her once, buried his face in her neck until she giggled. Then his eyes found Zariah across the grass. The smile he gave her was private. Intimate. The one reserved only for her. That's my cue, Zariah stood. Good luck with the new firm, Marcus. Mrs. Park, Zariah, thank you. For being gracious about this. She paused. I'm not gracious. I just don't have space in my life for bitterness anymore. It's exhausting. And I have better things to focus on. She walked across the grass to her family. Jaemin's arms slipped around her waist, Min Seo babbling about flying flowers and butterflies and the grandmother who'd given her rice cakes. How was the lecture? He asked. Good. Inspiring, actually. Those students, they're hungry. Determined. They remind me of you. A version of me. The one who believed she could rebuild. They walked toward the car, Min Seo between them, each holding one of her hands while she jumped over cracks in the sidewalk. Did you tell them? Jaemin asked. About Damien? The miscarriage? All of it? Some of it. The parts that mattered. How I survived. How I rebuilt. How I learned that someone else's opinion of me doesn't define my worth. She looked at him. I didn't mention you by name. Just said I married someone who saw my value when I couldn't see it myself. Inaccurate. You always saw your value. You just needed someone to defend it while you healed. Min Seo tugged on Zariah's hand. Mama, ice cream? It's almost dinner time, baby. Please. Flying flowers ice cream? Jaemin laughed. Flying flowers ice cream. That's strawberry, I assume. With sprinkles, Min Seo added seriously. Very important sprinkles. They stopped at a gelato shop near campus. Sat outside while Min Seo demolished her strawberry cone with the focused intensity of a surgeon. Cherry blossoms drifted down around them. Students walked past, some doing double takes at Jaemin, others at Zariah, recognizing them from news articles or social media or Seoul's endless gossip networks. The couple who'd become a power pairing. The rags to riches story. The protective billionaire and his self-made wife. But in this moment, they were just parents trying to prevent ice cream from ruining a designer dress. I got an email, Zariah said quietly. From Catherine Cross. Jaemin's expression went carefully blank. When? Yesterday. I didn't open it. Do you want to? She thought about it. The woman who'd thrown her into the rain. Who'd called her trash. Who'd looked at Zariah's pain and felt nothing but satisfaction that her son's problem was handled. No, Zariah said finally. Whatever she has to say, apology, justification, request, I don't need it. She's a stranger who hurt me once. That's all she gets to be. Good. Jaemin wiped ice cream from Min Seo's chin. You don't owe her forgiveness. I don't owe her anything. Zariah smiled. That's the best part. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not hurt. I'm just done. Min Seo finished her cone and immediately demanded to be carried. Jaemin lifted her, and she settled against his shoulder, sticky hands in his hair, already drowsy from sugar and sunshine. They walked back to the car slowly, in no rush. Seoul stretched around them, their city, their home, their empire. But also just a city. Just a home. Just a life they'd built together from ashes and anger and love that refused to quit. Do you ever think about it? Zariah asked as Jaemin buckled Min Seo into her car seat. What would have happened if you hadn't stopped that night? If I'd. Every day. His voice was rough. Every single day I think about how close I came to losing you before I even knew you. And I'm grateful. For red lights. For rain. For whatever cosmic accident put me at that intersection at that exact moment. He closed the car door gently. Min's EO was already asleep. Because this, he gestured at their daughter, the car, the life surrounding them. This is everything I didn't know I needed. Zariah kissed him. Soft and brief and full of 3 years of gratitude she could never fully express. Let's go home, she said. And they did. Past the university where she now taught. Past the mall where Damien had made his fatal mistake. Past the hospital where she'd lost one future and found another. Through Gangnam's neon-lit streets. Up into the hills of Pyeongchang-dong. Through gates that closed behind them like a promise of safety. Home. Where their daughter would grow up knowing she was wanted. Where Zariah would never again feel less than. Where the woman who'd been pushed had finally stopped falling. And learned to fly.